Welcome back, guys. This is part 3 of my milled AK receiver tutorial, and we're going to get right back to it. As I discussed at the end of part 2, we're going to start working with this section of the print here and cutting out the location in the trunnion where the bolt interfaces and where the bullet guide gets riveted, and ultimately right where the barrel mates up with the rest of the gun. So let's move this back over to my second monitor and get to work. Okay, so let's I'm going to start a sketch on my front plane. And just so it's easier to see, I'm going to change my view to what do they call this? Hidden lines visible. Let me just read the print for a second here. Okay, so first things first is going to be the center point or center line of my feature. And I'm going to go and add a second line right after it. This one's going to become construction geometry. And then I'm going to sketch the general shape of our cavity here, which is something like this. And then go ahead and dimension this. So let's go from the back here up to the front. 51 millimeters. And from this edge to the front is 31 millimeters. And then from this edge to the front is 22.5. Let me clean up my dimensions a little bit. Oops. Just going to center those. Next, we need to define the diameters of those. So I'm just going to do the radius. Right from here, 1.5, and then that one is not horizontal, so I'm going to fix that. Also, these two should be collinear. There we go. So let's grab this one and my center line. Come over here, and we're going to be at 13.25. What's going on here? Oh, oh, I see. Gotta get rid of this coincident relation. There we go. And we'll be at 13.25. And this line is going to be right where the depth of our threads end. So I'm actually going to take this line if I can. I might actually just have to, you know what, these two lines are collinear. So what I'm going to do is grab these two and make them collinear. And actually, no, I don't like that, because if I ever want to change this for some reason, that's going to drive the depth of this hole here. So what I'm going to do instead is grab this point and see if I can get them to connect here. Let's see what I can do. Actually, what I can do is go over into my hole wizard feature and view the sketches that created it. And let's see. this sketch is what I'm looking for. So we'll show that for a minute. No, maybe not. What's this one? No, neither of those are going to help me. Okay, there's got to be a different way to do it. Ah, you know what? We'll just do it this way. We'll use a dimension. Thought I could be clever with relations again, but sometimes you can't. So we'll measure this being the difference of what we used before to create it. We'll make this 3.5 there. And we're going to do a revolve cut. And since I added a center line, it automatically defaults to that selection. If I didn't like that, I could always choose a different one, but that's my intention was to use it. That's why I sketched it. So go ahead and finish that. And then we'll switch back to our shaded with edges view. And you can see the depth of the cut we've made there. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and adjust my settings here to make these rounded edges smoother. If you'd like to do that, you can go up into document properties under image quality and drag all the way into the red zone here. If you've got a decent graphics card in your machine, you shouldn't have any kind of issues loading a single model like this. If you were loading a full assembly and you did that, things start to kind of slow down and lag a little bit, but with a single part like this, it's generally okay to do. And you can see all my rounded edges are nice and smooth now. So let's get situated for our next part here, which I think we're going to start at the top of the trunnion and cut everything out that I don't need up on the top there. So we're going to sketch on this face. And I'm just going to lay out the general shape of what I intend to cut again. So it's going to be something like that. And then I've got an edge to take away here. All right, so let's get some dimensions on this. We're going to have to go back to hidden lines visible because this edge back here is the top of my receiver, and I'm going to be dimensioning to that, so I need to be able to see that. So let me just rotate a little bit. Okay, it's that one there. So I'm going to dimension from here to here. That's going to be 11.4 millimeters. And to the top of this peak is 13.7. And my angle here is 30 degrees. And the top of my peak is 1.5 millimeters. And I know that this cut needs to be centered over the receiver. So what I'm going to do is select my midpoint and my origin and make them vertical. And then I'm going to dimension the inside gap here to 24 millimeters. Next, I am also at 1.5 millimeters here. And another 30-degree chamfer. And we're ready to cut this off. So let's switch back to shaded with edges. And we'll just rotate around here a second so we can see what we're doing. And I could go all the way through with this, but it'll generate, let's bring up the print so you can see what I'm looking at. From this view and this view, it looks like we can just cut all the way through without consequence. But if you look at our section front view here, the cut actually terminates right here. So we need to actually figure out that depth. And it's given to us right here. So 30 millimeters is our cut depth. So go to Features, Extruded Cut, and we're going to go out to 30 millimeters. So there's the pocket we're left with. I know you're probably already looking at this, which that's not going to be a big deal because this is already going to be part of the material that we're going to be removing next. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so you know what? This next one's actually going to be super simple. We're going to draw a fully defined rectangle on our front face here, not the front plane, but our face. And we're going to convert, actually let's not even convert, let's just use a rectangle and just draw it pretty much right there. And we actually don't need any dimensions for this because everything that we want to cut is already defined. So I'm going to grab this line here and make it collinear with this line. The top of my rectangle is going to be collinear with the top of my trunnion. The bottom of my rectangle is going to be collinear with the top of my receiver. And the rear of my rectangle is going to be collinear with the rear of the trunnion. That's it. And we're going to cut to a depth of 12 millimeters. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to do 12 millimeters offset from surface. And we're going to select this surface, opposite edge here. So this is actually our 12 millimeter dimension. There we go. Starting to look more like an AK. So from there, we're going to shape where the bolt lugs lock into the trunnion here. We're going to shape this, I guess you could call it the negative locking lug as opposed to the positive lugs on the bolt. And let's see, what's my sketch going to look like for that? Let's go off of this surface here. And really it looks like all I need are two triangles. So I'm just going to sketch some, oops, I don't want to snap to the middle here. We'll delete that in a second. Triangle 1 and triangle 2. I'm going to delete this relation. I didn't mean to snap to the midpoint. And from the peak to the side of my receiver is 28 millimeters, and Look at that. Okay, then I guess it was right to the center there. And then my chamfer is at 45 degrees. This one we're looking at 1.4 millimeters at 30 degrees. And we can cut that straight back to this surface. I'm going to go up to surface, and I'm going to click this surface here. There we go. Let's close this down. There we go. All right, so the next cut I want to make is to clear out this material here. So let's see. I'm going to go normal to this. Actually, I'm actually going to cut on this surface. So let's just make my sketch there. And so there's a tricky little fillet that's actually got to cut into this groove here. Let me show you what I'm looking at. It's this section right here. So what I'm going to do is, I know the location of the edge of this because of this dimension. So I'll show you how I'm going to go ahead and make that cut. I'm going to draw this really crude shape out here. And then put an arc inside here like I've been doing. Actually, I meant to snap this point to this line. And these two are going to be tangent. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this collinear with this edge, like that. And I'm going to let this do whatever it's doing right now. This edge back here is going to be collinear with this edge. And this one up here is actually going to be dimensioned 11 millimeters from the side of my receiver here. And then the intersection point of this fillet is actually what I'm interested in dimensioning. So I'm going to drop a point on it. And then I'm going to select this line and my point, holding control, and I'm going to make coincident. So now what I can do is dimension from that point to the front of my receiver. And that's going to be 49.5. And then the last thing I need to do is dimension the radius, which is 4 millimeters. That's it. So next I can go ahead and extrude cut. Oh, actually no. Sorry. I'm going to create construction geometry out of this line, and then I'm going to add a break point here, make it coincident, and then this is going to become construction geometry. Now I'm ready to make my extruded cut. See, it automatically determines what I want to cut as long as I don't have multiple closed loops. And then I think we should just be able to go up to next, and it'll cut exactly what I'm intending to. Yep. That's it. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is pretty much cosmetics. We can go ahead and wrap up what we just did here with some chamfers and fillets. So the first one I'm going to do is actually, yeah, we don't even have to focus on just this area. I'm actually going to go ahead and wrap up the edges along the top here because we're pretty much finished with the top surfaces. So let's see. Let's do the fillets on the top edge of the receiver, or I'm sorry, chamfers, not fillets. And those are 0.5 millimeter here and here at 45 degrees. Okay. Then we'll fillet the rear here. I think these are 2.5, 2.5 millimeters. This one and this one. And you know what? I can consolidate this chamfer here if I move it back underneath this one. And then what we're going to do is select, we're going to edit this feature and select 1, 2, 3 edges. There we go. And then let's go back up front here and add some fillets. So the first one I'm going to add is the 4 millimeter one. So let's go to fillet, 4 millimeters. It's going to be this edge, and the edge in here, and then these 2 edges, 1 and 2. Now, if you look at the print, you'll notice that this line here is cutting in and meeting this corner. And I don't believe that's actually the case, unless it was cut with a ball mill, but it couldn't technically have been, because if you look at the section view up here, we don't actually have any chamfers or radii in the corners there. So our cut from the top should actually look like this. And that's the way I've left it on mine. So if you guys actually, want to change that or modify it yourself, that's fine. It's not actually a mechanically critical feature. So like I said, I left mine like that. Their next 2 fillets are just going to be these guys back here. Those are 1.5, 1.5 millimeters. So let's see what we've got here. Okay, we're right at 25 minutes. I think I'd like to cut it there, just because I think what I want to do next is the cut. Where did I put my print? Here it is. I want to get this cut in here. And the illustration for that is actually right here. You can see where it's pointing off of the leading edge and giving us a section view of that. So we're going to use a combination of this. Actually, we might only just need to use this with a plane to cut from. So that's where I'm going to start next. This concludes part 3, and we will see you on part 4.